Stuart Nash.
Thank you much, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, we bring in these amendment bills because there's something wrong or something missing, or we've thought of something, or times have changed from when the original bill was put in place. And now this is a bill that Labor introduced 10 years ago, and times do change. But what the test of a good bill, Mr Chair, in my view, is has it improved the situation? Does it make it better for New Zealanders? Does it do a favour to society? When I look at this, I don't think it should. So when we call this an amendment bill, it's a bill that's going backwards. I firmly believe, Mr Chair, that the coroner has a very important role to play in our society. They're independent, we know that. They're experts in their field, we know that. And what this bill actually does is narrow the scope of what they're allowed to do and the recommendations that they're allowed to bring in. So why would we bring in recommendations, or why would we legislate for recommendations that actually don't strengthen the role of a very important part of our society, which in a way almost weaken it, or as Ms Ardern highlighted, actually take power away from an independent body? I don't think there's anything in here that's actually amended the legislation in a way that is added. Well, there are parts, but I think there are parts in this bill which have not added to the Coroners Act of 2006, but have actually taken away from the ability of coroners to act in a manner that I think society has come to expect from them. We do know that the coroners can be overloaded, there's no doubt about that, but the inability, now it's no longer mandatory for coroners to hold an inquest into the deaths that occur in official custody. I would have thought, Mr Chair, that is a vital part of the independence of our system. We do have a professional body of men and women who have the abilities and the skills to undertake the sort of inquest that I think New Zealanders have come to demand and now, after 10 years, expect. But this bill has not taken us forward, it's taken us backwards. And so as of the 1st of July, which is only 2 weeks away, this is going to come into play, and I think that New Zealand is going to be worse off for it, to be honest, Mr Chair. So, there's not too much more I can say with regard to this, except to sum up for what the other speakers have concluded. But the fact that this should actually be non-contentious legislation. The role of the coroners in society should be something that all parties in this House agree upon in a bipartisan way, because it is such an important part of our system. And the fact that we don't agree on it, in fact that there is divisions across the House on something that should be not contentious, I think shows a flaw in this piece of legislation, Mr Chair. And I think what should have happened with this is it should have stayed with the Select Committee until they could actually get consensus, gain consensus, or it should be withdrawn and gone back to a process that allowed consensus to be developed. Because when we start undermining pillars in our community like the coroner, or undermining the powers of the coroner, then you've got to ask, where does it stop? And I just think that the independence of someone like the coroner is important, because what they have done in the past, in which this strips away a lot of it, is provide recommendations in a way that others can't, but also what they've done is, I believe, added a level of legitimacy to a process which has often needed that in place. And as we know, they cover all manner of issues and deaths, and all manner of incidents. And it's really a one-stop shop, I suppose. I mean, we can't have the police do this. We can't have the police investigating deaths in custody. We can have, as we know, we can have inquiries of different natures. But I just think that this is just it was a very good backstop. It was a very important part of society, and the checks and balances in place that allowed things to function in a way that New Zealanders have come to expect. This is a pretty poor substitute for that, and I've taken Jacinda Ardern's lead on this. She's done a very good job in sort of presenting the case. Unfortunately, we're not going to win in this, and I just don't think it's a great result. So I suspect we're going to see this back in the House in 2018 with the powers of the coroner return to how they were pre this bill. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.